it enough?
No, it's okay. Yeah, I'm afraid not, but I'm going to skip some slides. Okay, good morning again, everybody. So I was just told I will have 12 minutes, so I'm going to skip some of the slides, I think, and a lot of what I wanted to say has been said anyway already, so that'll spare you from listening twice to the same story. I would like to just to start with a reminder with what I heard from the International Energy Agency last year in Brussels when they launched their World Energy Outlook. Their chief economist said policymakers face critical choices in reconciling energy, environmental and economic objectives, and I think that's what it is all about, and that's what the F-gas regulation is all about, and we should keep that in mind. Our association, just 2 words about it, we are an association of manufacturers of refrigeration, air conditioning and heat pump manufacturers. They produce both the components but also the final equipment, which gives us a good overview of the entire industry sector. We have several fields where we are very active at the moment. Of course, as you could see, the F-gas regulation is really one of our top concerns. But besides the F-gas regulation, even more important is the energy efficiency in general. And there are a lot of pieces of legislation at EU level which deal with energy efficiency, among them the Eco-Design Directive, the Energy Efficiency Directive, Eco-Label, Energy Label, etc., etc. So there are a lot of fields which impact our industry sector, which impact each and everybody in this room, and that's where our field of activity lies. Of course, market surveillance is very important, and I can only echo what Graham Fox just said. It's not enough to just put a legislation in place. We have to enforce legislation as well. And there, unfortunately, there is often a lack of funding, a lack of organization at member state level, so there is still a lot to be done. And the European Union is at the moment revising a regulation on market surveillance to make sure that there is a better coordination and communication between the different member states. So we are very active in that field as well. EPE members in Europe, we do have small, medium and large size enterprises as members. In total, they employ over 200,000 people in the European Union. They produce everywhere in Europe, in nearly every country. And most importantly, in view of the discussion we are having here today, they are using all types of refrigerants, and they have been using all types of refrigerants for quite a long time already. They are using CO2 technology, ammonia, hydrocarbons, HFCs, in the past, of course, HCFCs, in the future, probably HFOs. So they are using all types of refrigerants, have been doing so in the past and will continue to do so in the future. The point is that they need to have the choice to choose the refrigerant which is best suited for the given application, from an energy efficiency, from a safety and from an economical perspective. I don't need to say why we need to do something on the F-gas regulation. I think Arno explained that already very well. So we all agree more needs to be done. The difficulty we had as an industry when this whole discussion started, okay, more needs to be done, but what needs to be done was to have reliable data and to know what we are talking about. So as EPE, we funded 2 studies with 2 different research institutes, one French and one British, focusing on our industry sector, as this covers 80% of the total F-gas emissions. And the conclusions from this study, I found them quite, they are very coherent, first of all, and they also support the Commission's proposal, which is, from our perspective, of course, good. Both of the studies show that, yes, the bank in total increased if you look at the metric tons, but at the same time, if you look at the emissions expressed in CO2 equivalent, it decreased by over 10% from 1990 to 2010. Which is due to the Montreal Protocol and to the phase-out of CFCs and HCFCs. Both studies, when we look now into the future, what can be done and what is achievable with the F-gas regulation in place as it stands today, show that there is a potential to reduce emissions already by 15% compared to 2010, and that commercial refrigeration offers quite a big potential to achieve these reductions. There are even higher reductions possible just by implementing fully the existing F-gas regulation of 20% if we look into the future in 2030 compared to 2010. Why is that so? Because in commercial refrigeration we have already quite a range of refrigerants available with lower GWPs, which allows to bring down the direct emissions. We also have a range of alternatives which have a good energy efficiency versus maybe some of the refrigerants which are used today. And there is quite some scope to reduce the leakage as well. So in that market, there is a lot which is possible to be done. Both studies also show that there is much more potential to reduce the emissions even further, by over 60%, in fact, compared to 2010. But both studies also clearly state that today, where we stand today with the existing safety standards and safety regulation, be it local, be it national, be it international, it's not possible to go that far down because there are limits to the use of flammable and mildly flammable refrigerants. So this is an outlook in the future, what may be achievable one day, but today we cannot take this as a basis. So what is achievable today? That's the outcome of the SKM study, and that is talking emissions, and it's very much joining what Arno Kaschel also said from the Commission's study, from their own study. We can achieve quite substantial emission reductions in our sector by over 70 million tons if I count the HCFCs in, which still need to be replaced, and by at least 50 million tons if I only look at the HFCs. So there is a lot what our industry sector can achieve, and we should not forget that. I mean, we are very modest, I find. We take this as granted. Yeah, we can just phase down. It's not a big deal. Yes, it is a big deal. Which sector achieves such a high amount of emission reductions? Not everybody can do that. How to get there, based on the studies I just showed, from our perspective, it's a 30% of HFC consumption reduction in 2020, a reassessment then, where do we stand, can we go further, do we need to scale it back a little bit, and then a 65% HFC consumption reduction in 2030. This is not exactly what the Commission is saying, but it's not very far away at the end of the day. What does the Commission propose? We saw that already, so I don't need to go into detail here. We have three big pillars: containment, phase down, and some bans. What do the other institutions say? Because the Commission, as Arno explained already, the Commission made their proposal and now it's in the Parliament, in the hands of the Parliament, and more specifically of the Environmental Committee at the moment, and in the hands of the Council, that is the Member States, among them Italy, of course, and they are debating now about this proposal. And each of the institutions has its own views. What I would like to highlight here is that the EU Parliament at the moment, the Environmental Committee, has a very, very high level of ambition. Why is that so? The Parliament is going to be re-elected next year, and of course, if I am a politician and if I want to be re-elected and if I am in the Environmental Committee, then of course I want to have some nice success stories to sell to my voters, and I will not just go with a very conservative proposal. So what we can see is that the members of Parliament want to see quick wins, want to have big HFC bans in stationary air conditioning and in refrigeration as of 2020. So in other words, no more HFCs in refrigeration and in air conditioning from 2020 onwards. They want to see on top of that a very steep phase down, much steeper than the phase down the Commission is proposing. And they want to have this service and maintenance ban, what Arno already explained, as of 2017. So this is certainly, there is some scope for us to worry how this is going to evolve. The Council sees it somewhat different. They have a lower level of ambition because there, of course, the economic crisis is kind of a big topic which stands in the room. And there is also this gap between what the South wants and what the North wants. So we can expect some balancing from the Council side. What do we say as industry? As I said already, we very much support the Commission's rationale and the Commission's idea of achieving these emission reductions. We have some caveats to that, but I'd say they are not tremendous. There is not a tremendous difference, and I'm very confident that if we go for this rationale, we will go very far in terms of emission reduction. So from our perspective, the phase down steps should achieve a 65% consumption reduction. If we go to the service and maintenance ban, and this is a tendency we see even in the Parliament confirmed now, that the threshold is slightly increased to 40 tons of CO2 equivalent. Why? Because over 80% of the emissions in these applications come from the big installations anyway. And this gives some flexibility for the small SMEs to use their equipment until the end of its lifetime and to exempt very low temperature applications because there are no alternatives available. To then allow the use of recycled and reclaimed refrigerants. Why? Because this is an incentive and it makes these refrigerants also, it gives them value. If I know I can use it again, what am I going to do? I'm going to recover it and I'm going to use it again. If I know I cannot use the refrigerant anymore, what am I going to do? I'm just going to open it and let it go into the atmosphere. That's human nature, I'm afraid. So you have to give some incentives to really keep the refrigerant and use it again. And then regarding the pre-charge ban, from our perspective, I couldn't agree more that it's very important to enforce the F-gas regulation to make sure that containment is respected and that also the pre-charged equipment comes under the phase-down systems. This is what we advocate. We have also some concerns about the baseline. I think this is going too much in detail here now. So just to summarize, we are very concerned, as I said already, about the evolution we can see in the European Parliament at the moment for all the reasons I explained already, because the way this seems to evolve in the Environmental Committee would jeopardize energy efficiency, would jeopardize safety, and would jeopardize the affordability, especially in southern European countries. So we are concerned that the phase down gets too steep, too quick, and too far down. We are concerned that the service and maintenance ban gets suddenly implemented from 2015 onwards, which would of course be too early. As Graham said, if I buy yesterday an equipment and tomorrow I cannot service it anymore, that's certainly not very user and consumer friendly. Then we are against and we are concerned about these arbitrary bans on stationary air conditioning and on refrigeration equipment, which are currently on the schedule and in the amendments of the European Parliament, especially and very much in the stationary air conditioning. We heard the discussion about heat pumps. You cannot dissociate heat pumps from stationary air conditioning. Heat pumps are part of stationary air conditioning. So with such a ban, you can be sure we are going to kill that market immediately. We are concerned about the ban on pre-charging of equipment and finally about a single environmental legal base, but that also would go too deep into detail here, I think. So what is going to happen next? We heard it already. This is just a little bit more visual representation. We have the EU Commission. The EU Commission who made their proposal, so this is done. It was adopted in 2012, sorry, that's a mistake here, it needs to be 2012. And now we are here in the Parliament and in the Council. The next big date, as we heard already, is going to be the 19th of June. 19th of June, very important moment. We are going to see in which direction the Environmental Committee in the Parliament is going to go. And in parallel, the Council, the Member States also debate about the Commission's proposal. If the Parliament and the Council are not too far away from each other, then we have a fair chance that this is going to be voted at the end of this year. Well, that's rather unlikely, but probably at the beginning of next year. If both institutions are very far away from each other, then this can drag on quite a long time still, and we can maybe wait until 2015 or longer. We don't hope that this is going to be the case. We have a great interest that this is going to be decided quickly because industry also needs certainty and needs to know where to go. What can you do here in Italy? What can each and every company in its country do? Yes. It's to engage with the national decision makers to make sure that your government understands your concerns via your national association, to engage with the European decision makers wherever possible. If you have a member of parliament and if your production is, for example, in the constituency of that member of parliament, talk to him. He's interested. They want to be elected. You saw it yesterday when Oreste Rossi was here. And speak with one voice. Try to coordinate your input. Make sure that there is not 500 different voices coming to the decision makers because then they don't know what to do with it. It's important to coordinate. And that's also the end of my presentation. I was 2 minutes too long, I apologize, and happy to reply to questions.